Just so you folks know, I recorded this weekly a little bit early, so if something is woefully out of date, it is totally Bob's fault.
What?
Hey, it's Sol, and welcome back to Warcraft Weekly, the show that's like a Saturday morning cartoon with a voice to put you back to sleep. Hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get this show on. I'm sorry. Let me reconfigure that to be a little bit more clean. Okay, let's get this show. Okay, I definitely hit the save button, didn't I? All right. Let's do this! The 10.0 Dragonflight pre-expansion patch is live, with players already having mixed success with their first challenge dealing with the UI. Most of us know by now that on patch days, especially expansion patch days, it's pretty chaotic. Add-ons are busted, characters feel all funny, and people that you haven't seen in years suddenly pop back on, ignorant of the hurt that you felt when they ghosted you. The pain never gets old. This patch release is especially impactful thanks to the return of talent trees and a big update to the UI, and we'll talk about that first. Users across the board have had very mixed experiences with the revamp, with some reporting that changes aren't being saved. In fact, I can confirm that at least the other day, if you resized your chat window while you're in edit mode, nothing you do going forward will save, and next time you log in, your UI will revert back to its most previous saved state, and in my old line of work, that's the kind of bug that would prevent a game from seeing the light of day. That seems to have been fixed, but there's also the basics, like there's features that we take for granted, like button snapping, resizing, and hiding the menu button thing with the tiny buttons that just aren't there. Meanwhile, other users, notably myself, have had very few issues setting up a UI that's ideal. Some purists who are messing with the UI for the very first time, many of them are finding this experience to be positive and eye-opening. I've talked to a lot of different folks, I've tried to help where I can, and while my perspective is limited, I have a few takes on this. First, I really hope that the work on improving the UI has only just begun, and that the team could offer like a roadmap or a glimpse of what they have planned in the future. Because frankly, they're not done. There's clearly a demand for the WoW team to implement features that today we take for granted thanks to add-ons. But I also think that what they've accomplished during Dragonflight development is still pretty impressive for a first go. They've got the structure down. I love how layouts can be shared and that they can interact great with talent loadouts. I can switch to a different spec and everything just changes to my specification, unless it bugs out, of course. The rest, add-on creators can cover. I mean, there's no shortage of niche tweaks that no one asked for until suddenly it's the greatest thing ever. I noticed most of the negative feedback came from people who had already put in a ton of time customizing their UI with add-ons, hoping for an almost one-to-one experience with the revamp, and they feel let down, and well, they should, because it's definitely not a one-to-one experience. Again, basic features that you and I think are the norm either didn't make it for launch, weren't considered a high priority, or maybe both. Coupled with the fact that these users will still continue using add-ons, there's no doubt that there's going to be existing conflicts that make their experience inconsistent. Meanwhile, people who use very few to no add-ons, like I said, they've had more positive feedback and a more seamless experience because, well, they don't have a frame of reference. Speaking for me, I think it goes without saying that using add-ons to improve your gameplay experience puts you at a certain level of enthusiast gamer. Like, you want to enjoy your game the way that you like. People who hugely deviate from the stock UI may say it's because the game is otherwise literally unplayable, but I just see that as wanting even more of that control. There's nothing wrong with that. That has nothing to do with your actual skill or performance level. The updated UI is not for the player who wants control down to like pixel perfect perfection. It's for people who want more options, but are just kind of skittish about the details. I think some people trick themselves into thinking that the WoW team would make a fully customizable ELV-UI-like experience, when one could argue that the majority of players don't want or need that level of detail. Note that the big data people inside Blizzard know exactly how many people are using certain add-ons and already determined what the most popular UI features should be worked on first, or later, or at all. For example, and I'm pulling these straight out my ass, the XP bar placement matters until you stop tracking XP or rep. So is that really a big priority? Not sure. There could be also a user experience kind of mandate that the menu buttons over in the corner cannot be hidden through the stock UI because, Nerd alert. In theory, one could lose the keybind to open the main menu, and if that happens while the menu bar is disabled or non-interactable or just like, you can't click it, that could be considered a gameplay crash that you have to log out of the game to resolve, and that is a big no-no. For those of you who have been having problems, I'm going to offer you folks a tip. It's kind of a risky tip, but this might help you if you're having UI problems on Live Realms, the PTR, or the beta. After years of playing the game, and adding and removing add-ons, you've probably punched holes in what are called your console variables or CVARs. It's what many add-ons mess with to make the game the way that you want it, and add-ons really are just an easy way to understand the way to navigate them. The problem that happens is that even if you uninstall an add-on, more often than not, the variables that they changed would still be there. Some are very obvious to see, some of them not so obvious. Naturally, someone like me who goes through add-ons like a playful little slut would start running into problems, and that's why every month or so I run this command, /console space cvar underscore default. When you hit enter, this is going to change all of your console variables to their default, and this can be pretty jarring. It's going to reset your volume, so it might suddenly get super loud. Your resolution will change the next time you start your client. Auto loot is turned off, and a couple more things. It's almost as if you just installed the game, but this is different from reinstalling the game or deleting your WTF folder because these settings are on your account. If you're on the PTR or the beta and you can't see your nameplates, it's probably because you were using an add-on like Plater, which turns the default nameplates off so it can display its own. Resetting your CVARs is kind of like a juice cleanse. It gets rid of like little impurities, but don't worry, your loaded add-ons aren't being effective, none of those settings are being altered, and it's going to immediately override those variables again. You only end up resetting things that your add-ons aren't currently affecting. If you want to look at your variables or CVARs at a glance, download the add-on Advanced Interface Options from your favorite add-on site. Now keep in mind that I'm only guessing why some people are having problems and others are not. There might be other add-ons that are interfering with the UI changes. Someone pointed out that Fishing Buddy was causing the main bar to get like super big, and you wouldn't really think that. If you are having trouble though, give that reset a try, it might help. Best practice though is to start with 0 add-ons. Adjust the UI to your liking and then reactivate add-ons one at a time and just see what breaks. As for the other complaints, I can't speak to all of it. Bugs are bugs, bugs suck, Blizzard fix your bugs. I also want to reassure people who felt like they expected to delete all their add-ons and just count on the new UI to take care of them that while that does suck, there's no shame in using add-ons. Add-ons are great. Add-ons are like a mini industry that takes some of the most niche wants and needs of players and tries to solve them. For example, weak auras are a lot more than just ways to help you out in combat. They can be a full UI replacement that the WoW team just is not going to try and replicate ever. Add-ons brought us Sorted, it's my favorite bag add-on, and it brought us Bronzina and Transmog Roulette. The WoW team didn't turn off add-ons or said that you will be replacing your UI with this thing, but they did present you with an additional choice, so make one. With the launch of the pre-patch, a lot of players who are on break are hobbling their way back, while others are still waiting on the sidelines because, well, they know the real action starts on the pre-patch event starting November 15th. Others are waiting for the 28th, when the beta really begins. But one man decided to make a bit of a splash on his return to doing regular commentary on the game, and that's Mike from Preach Gaming. I heard once that he prefers to call himself Mike, and so I'm going to stick with it. Mike, as you know, has covered World of Warcraft for years as a fierce representative of the community with what I saw as a focus that's closer to the endgame crowd. Last year, in the middle of Blizzard's very awkward summer, he pulled out of doing WoW coverage, period, citing the Blizzard lawsuit and the direction that Shadowlands seemed to be going. However, he wasn't necessarily quitting the game. The impression that I had was that WoW was no longer going to be his home game. It was the end of an era, the clickbait declared, and it sent shockwaves across the community. But then 15 months went by. There's no shortage of Activision Blizzard controversy, but since then a lot's happened, with a change of leadership, and game releases, and game announcements, and anxious but mostly positive impressions of Dragonflight so far. Also, he finished the Endwalker MSQ, but whatever the case, according to a Twitter post, Mike asked to visit the Blizzard campus and conduct interviews. He paid out of his own pocket, and off he went. So there was a BlizzCon 2022 this year with one attendee who also happened to interview like everybody. Senior devs, game director, senior vice presidents with no lines at the food trucks, I bet, like ill. And there's no hiding it, I'm jealous of Mike, and I mean that in the most endearing way. I respect him as a creator. I bet he's a totally 100,000% fine person. As a viewer, he has an energy that doesn't fit my vibe, and I've learned, or I've taught myself, that that's not a critique, it's just me sharing my preference. But jealousy aside, I'm glad that he's back, and while they're not available as of this recording, I am excited to watch the interviews that he did that I guess don't have these time constraints. When it comes to commentators, the more the merrier, although some folks are definitely looking at Mike's return with a different light. To some, Mike burned bridges on his way out, and that has these folks feeling a bit betrayed that their guy is leaving their game. It's made worse when their guy is enjoying a different game, a competitor's game no less, and he's happy and thriving like OMG heathen. And then it's made worse again when he returns, welcomed back by the WoW team that he quote burned and being cheered on by his fans. And I want to share my take on it because I'm covering this right now obviously, and I'm anxious about how the comments below are going to react. We don't need that bad energy here, folks. Like, we don't need to gatekeep commentary or commentators. It's wasted energy. If you don't agree with his takes, don't watch him. It's much easier on you. Now, you know my vibe and how I do my commentary. I'm sure Mike and I agree on a ton of things, but we just present it in a very different way. If he's a boxer, I'm like a thumb wrestler. I can't hide my envy that one person was able to get all that exclusive coverage, but I don't think there's anyone more qualified to conduct a Q&A with strong follow-up questions the way that Mike can. Now, these are just my opinions, mind you. Max from Team Liquid did a really good interview with Ian, but he's hyper-focused on endgame, even more so than Mike. Hazel's interview with Ian was also very good, but if I had to make a choice, I'd pick Mike. And then I'd probably have to watch my back, and that's the show. I'm tucking this last part towards the end because I barely got to test it before this recording. Work orders are finally testable on the beta, and I made a video earlier with my sort of live impressions. Now that I've had a few hours to let it marinate in my head though, I've got to say it's a pretty positive experience so far. There's nothing too surprising about how it works. I've explained it like a million times already, but there are a few key takeaways to share so far because, well, any of this might change. We knew coming into this that there would be a limit on how many work orders or crafting orders we can complete per day. This is to prevent rewarding players who would otherwise camp and snipe work orders. But in testing, there were 30 of these work orders available. Now, we don't know for sure what that actually means. Maybe we get 30 work orders per day. Maybe it just caps out at 30, and the reality is that we get like 5 or 10 work orders that we can do per day. Also, we can send work orders to ourselves. So let's pretend, like if I were to worm my way into a high level key and get one of them mythic level reagents, I can send a work order directly to my crafting alt, who can then craft or recraft the mythic epic thing for my main. Now, preventing my pure crafting alts from partaking in those mythic goodness things, it does sound discouraging. Okay, it is discouraging, but I also want to make it clear that from a gold making standpoint, there are a lot of items that crafters will be able to make that is not gear, that does not require the use of crafting orders, that, well, you can post and bank off of just fine. However, gamers are gamers, and this is a new feature in a big profession revamp. It's going to be hard to predict what's going to happen, and it's easy to fall in doomer speak, like, what if it sucks? What if no one cares about quality? But what if it's dope? What if you make huge money? What if you make the right decisions and you ride that economic wave to prosperity? What if it's just fun to craft stuff and take personal orders from people who you don't know, but who definitely know you because of what you can make? We don't have all the fine details, but we finally got the structure of this expansion down. And I'm excited. You could almost say that I'm hyped. The reality of things, though, is, it's going to wash that away. For now, though, I feel pretty good about Dragonflight, and it feels pretty messy right now. A month ago, outdoor endgame content was barely testable, item levels at endgame were knocked down a peg, and we just learned about tier set bonuses. And today we're here. How are we going to look a month from now? Hopefully we'll be in a good place, but for now, let's keep giving feedback on the UI stuff. Don't shut up about what you want. No take is bad, not even if you want like the old one back. And for now, let's give thanks to the folks that help us out. Those of you on Twitch, thank you for visiting and being so generous with your gifted subs. To our patrons like Amanda, thanks for extending your generosity. And to you, viewer, thank you as well. It's thanks to you that we're growing. Our kind of audience is getting a little bit bigger of a voice, and you can help by simply clicking the like button, subscribing for more content, and catching me on stream. Well, just to let you folks know, I am going to be on vacation starting pretty much as soon as you're watching this. I'm going to be off in Hawaii, so the stream and the weekly is going to be on a short break. So I wish you well, and I'll see you for the next thing. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.